I want to invite Jessica to share with us. So, Jessica, you are a parent in the Battleground School District, and y'all in Battleground School District have been on quite the roller coaster with sex ed. Would you be willing to share a little bit about that experience and maybe about how that's impacted students' access to sex ed and their learning?
Yeah. So our journey started 2 summers ago. It's been a little over 2 years, just trying to get an updated curriculum, and you know, and going through the whole process that Elsie kind of touched on, like a review, parents reviewing it and all that, and through all the time this takes to get this all done. Last year in the fall, um, the school board had voted to get rid of sex ed altogether, to not teach it at all. And one problem with that, that nobody realized was coming when they voted on it, was there are AP classes in high school that touch on some of these topics, such as, if I remember correctly, the psychology class will touch on some topics on sex ed, not the whole content, but some things. And so the teachers were like, can we not teach about this now since we got rid of all those topics? And so they had to vote it back in for the students last year. This is pre-COVID, so this was a big crisis then, because everyone was thinking school was going to just go normal. So like not being able to finish your AP class to go to college was really terrified, stressful. And so they did vote it back in. But we still don't have a curriculum. So because we were still going through the curriculum, getting that voted in last year, they did not offer sex ed at all in our school district. And from what I hear, typically sex ed is taught in ninth grade in Battleground. And so any students that took health last year did not have the option of taking sex ed. So if they want to take sex ed in the future, they have to retake the entire health class again, which I can't imagine any kid doing that. And plus they already got credits for it. And so they don't get credits for their graduation requirements. And currently, you need like 6 credits a year. So you already have a full load, like you don't have any wiggle room. So that's been interesting. And then again, this year it's not being offered. So that's 2 years of high school students that largely won't be getting sex ed unless their parents take them somewhere else, which I only know of 2 options, which are not as convenient as a class at their school already.
Yeah, that's a big impact on learning and a big impact on our community, right? For a generation of folks to not get sex ed and not have that info. I'm curious too. You mentioned that you were a parent of LGBTQ youth. So I'm curious, sort of what has brought you to this work, this passion that you have for promoting universal access to comprehensive sex ed in your community?
There's lots of things have brought me, but I guess the most recent reason why is before any of my kids came out as LGBTQ, the community I was part of, I was taught that being LGBTQ was wrong. And I had on my own started kind of reconsidering that, like privately, just a little bit. And then when one of my kids came out, I'm glad I was reconsidering it already. So it wasn't I wasn't a full shock to them, like, no, you can't. Unfortunately, I wasn't the supportive parent I wish I would have been, because I didn't have the information I needed. And so shortly after my kid came out as LGBTQ, because I was still wrestling with it, like is this a choice or not? Because that's what I was taught, is it was a choice. And again, I have no material because I didn't have comprehensive sex ed growing up, so I didn't know that there's science behind this. Actually, when I was in school, there probably wasn't a lot of science on it. But so after a few months after my kid came out, I read science on gender, and I was like, oh, this is real. I could breathe. And some folks from my community didn't know I had changed my mind because I had gotten new information. And they're like, let's go to battlegrounds, and let's get rid of the comprehensive sex ed. And I was like, oh, well, I didn't tell them. I just showed up to support the sex ed. That was hard to do, and I'm just really glad I did it. And I'm still fairly involved with the school board, supporting LGBTQ students, not just with sexual health education, but all kinds of just being affirmed in the school district, and getting teachers training on just the topic of LGBTQ, or like pronouns, like Shannon had said, because if you are not taught this stuff, you don't know. If you don't practice, when I didn't practice, I flubbed up all the time. Actually, I didn't flub up, I just didn't practice. I kept silent, and that wasn't helpful for my LGBTQ kid. And so I'm willing to practice with people pronouns or educate them if they need to, because it can be intimidating, this new vocabulary, or, if they practice with me, it's not a personal hurt to me, because I am not, my pronouns are, she, her, pretty easy for people. So I don't get upset, because mostly people don't misgender me.
Yeah, and you've been a really strong advocate, and the story behind that shows us kind of, what brought you here, what gives you that fire. And I am curious, as an advocate in your community, how did you start your advocacy journey? Sort of what helped you find success?
So my journey started as an advocate, a school board meeting with my community there, not knowing that I had changed my mind, and I was terrified. And I wanted to bail, but I had a couple of friends sitting next to me. They're like, it'll be fine. And I'm like, oh, they're so lying. It's not going to be fine, but I'm just going to believe this lie. And, I hyperventilated through my whole, you usually get 3 minutes to speak at a school board meeting. So my 3 minutes of testimony, at least then, like, they had a chair. Nowadays, well, pre-COVID, they got rid of the chair, so you had to stand at a podium. And so I just regularly go to school board meetings, pre-COVID, post-COVID, and I just talk for my 3 minutes about whatever's going on in the school district with my kids, or, specifically because my kids are LGBTQ, or things that they say that their friends in the district are dealing with. And and then I just educate them on, pronouns. I don't even know. I should have taken a list of what I've talked to them about, because I'm sure I'm cycling through it over and over. And so that's my biggest thing, is going to the school board meetings and talk, or, give my testimony. And I did, like I said earlier, partner up with Planned Parenthood. And I was super grateful when they helped me write my testimony to go to Olympia in 2019. Some of it can be very emotional, when I'm talking about the damage that happened to me because I didn't have comprehensive sex ed, or, why I'm a huge supporter for LGBTQ people, specifically because of my kids. So I'm glad that Planned Parenthood helped me, to make that sound good, not as an emotional person, because of my story, or an emotional parent. Emotion's good, but how, I'll just say, as a mom, I could kind of take it a little too far where it's like, okay, I'm really trying to say this. Sorry about that. So just the school board meetings. And so last time I went up to Olympia, I wasn't stressed at all. And so thank you, school board, for letting me practice on you. Thank you, Planned Parenthood, for helping me out.